The Amazon is an immense living organism, breathing on a scale large enough to form the atmosphere itself. Moisture rises from its canopy in invisible currents. Clouds form and fall again as rain, feeding rivers far beyond its borders. This is not just a forest, it is a system the world depends on. Millions of species interact in ways that scientists are only beginning to understand. And yet, for all its importance, the Amazon remains one of the most dangerous and least known environments on Earth. In its rivers, giant snakes move silently through dark water. The black caiman holds position just beneath the surface. On land and in the trees, the jaguar hunts with precision, an apex predator in a world where survival is never guaranteed. Even the smallest creatures can be lethal, carrying toxins potent enough to stop a heart. Vast areas remain unmapped, and entire systems operate without human presence. Under dense canopies, people still live in total isolation. Indigenous tribes continue ways of life that have changed little over thousands of years. The Amazon is both essential and unforgiving. It sustains life on a global scale, yet operates by its own rules. Covering more than 2.1 million square miles across 9 countries, this sea of green is the largest tropical rainforest on Earth. At its core, the most powerful river system on the planet, discharging an estimated 55 million gallons of water per second into the Atlantic Ocean. The Amazon contains an unparalleled concentration of life. It is home to roughly 10% of all known species on Earth. A single acre of forest can support hundreds of tree species and thousands of insects. Its layered structure, from the forest floor to the emergent canopy rising over 200 feet, creates distinct habitats. Seasonal flooding transforms large areas into aquatic ecosystems, where forests remain submerged for months. Beyond biodiversity, the Amazon plays a critical role in regulating the Earth's climate, storing an estimated 100 billion tons of carbon. Trees release water vapor into the atmosphere, forming vast airborne moisture flows, often referred to as flying rivers. These currents help distribute rainfall across South America and contribute to global atmospheric circulation. However, since the 1970s, approximately 17% of the forest has been cleared for infrastructure development. Deforestation disrupts the forest's ability to regulate climate. In some regions, reduced rainfall seasons could soon transform the forest into savanna. The force that makes the rainforest possible is the Amazon River. Stretching over 4,000 miles from the Andes to the Atlantic, it carries more water than the next 7 largest rivers combined. During the wet season, the river can expand to more than 30 miles in width, transforming the surrounding forest into a temporary inland sea. The Amazon is not a single channel, but a network. Thousands of tributaries feeding into a dynamic system. These waters transport an immense load of organic material from the Andes, sustaining the extraordinary productivity of the forest. Each year, seasonal rains raise water levels by as much as 40 feet, renewing the soil in a cycle that has operated for millennia. Without this annual flooding, the surrounding land, often poor in nutrients, could not support such dense vegetation. The river also shapes climate. Its vast surface area contributes to evaporation, feeding the atmospheric moisture. In this way, the Amazon functions as a closed-loop system. Water rises from the ocean, falls over the basin, flows through the forest, and returns again. The river is not separate from the rainforest, it is the mechanism that sustains it. The Amazonian water is usually still and dark, almost opaque, reflecting only fragments of sky. Beneath the surface, something shifts, barely disturbing the flooded forest around it. This is the domain of the green anaconda. In the submerged lowlands, where trees stand half drowned for months at a time, the anaconda is perfectly at home. Its body, thick, muscular, patterned in muted greens and blacks, disappears into the water. Only the eyes and nostrils break the surface. It is the heaviest snake on Earth. Large females can exceed 20 feet in length and weigh more than 200 pounds. The anaconda is an ambush predator, relying on patience rather than pursuit. It can remain motionless for hours. Adapted to water, its strength is magnified here. On land, it is slow and exposed. In the flooded forest, it is dominant. Despite its reputation, encounters with humans are extremely uncommon. The anaconda is not a hunter of people, but a regulator of ecosystems. But the anaconda is not alone in these waters. Beneath the same dark surface, another predator moves, smaller, faster, and far more numerous. Piranhas operate as a collective. Dozens, sometimes hundreds, of individuals move together through the river channels. Among more than 30 recognized species, only a handful carry the reputation that has followed them for decades. Popular imagery suggests relentless aggression, a feeding frenzy waiting to happen. The reality, however, is more precise. In many parts of the Amazon, they function primarily as scavengers, helping to recycle organic material. The jaw structure is powerful for their size, equipped with interlocking, razor-sharp teeth. Despite their notoriety, attacks on humans are rare and typically linked to extreme conditions. Under normal circumstances, piranhas are cautious, often avoiding large disturbances rather than confronting them. Above the waterline, the forest changes. Light filters through layers of leaves and the dense silence gives way to movement in the canopy. Up here, colour replaces shadow, and sound carries across the trees. Found throughout the Amazon, toucans are among the most recognisable birds of the rainforest. Their oversized bills appear heavy, but are in fact lightweight structures made of keratin. Far from being a burden, the bill is a multifunctional tool. It allows the toucan to reach fruit on branches too thin to support its weight, extending its feeding range. Fruit makes up the majority of the diet, positioning the toucan as an important seed disperser. Seeds pass through its digestive system and are deposited far from the parent tree, helping maintain the regeneration of the forest. But the bill serves another purpose. It acts as a highly efficient thermal regulator. By adjusting blood flow to the surface, the toucan can release excess body heat, an essential adaptation in a humid environment. At the top of the Amazon's food chain, the jaguar has no natural predators. Males can exceed 200 pounds, and their defining trait is not speed, but force. A bite strong enough to pierce bone. Unlike most big cats, which rely on suffocation, the jaguar often delivers a precise, fatal bite directly through the skull. It is also uniquely adapted to the Amazon's waterways. Jaguars swim with ease, moving between flooded forests. Few predators are as versatile. With more than 80 recorded prey species, its diet reflects the full range of life in this ecosystem. Most jaguars are patterned with rosettes, dark markings that break up their outline in the shifting light of the forest. But some appear almost entirely black. Known as the black panther, this is not a separate species but a melanistic form. This coloration may offer an advantage in dense rainforest where visibility is low and contrast is reduced. They are most active at dusk and during the night, avoiding direct contact whenever possible. In most cases, their presence is revealed only through tracks, scent marks, or the remains of a hunt. With a population of over 2 million people, Manaus is the largest urban centre in the Amazon basin. This settlement began as a small colonial outpost, but its transformation came during the rubber boom of the late 19th century. As global demand surged, wealth flowed into the city, bringing with it materials and ideas from Europe. The most visible symbol of that era is the Amazon Theatre. An ornate opera house built with Italian marble. In the middle of the rainforest, it stands as a reminder of a time when Manaus was unexpectedly connected to global culture. With limited road access to the rest of Brazil, the Rio Negro is still the primary route for transport and trade. But the city has expanded and infrastructure followed. In 2011, the Rio Negro Bridge spanned the dark waters. Stretching for over 2 miles, it is one of the longest river bridges in South America, linking Manaus to the municipality of Aranduba. It represents a shift in how the Amazon is navigated, becoming less dependent on the rhythms of the river. At the edge of Manaus, the dark flow of the Rio Negro converge with the pale current of the Solimões River. They meet, but they do not immediately mix. For nearly 4 miles, the two rivers run side by side, divided by a visible boundary. The contrast is striking, but the cause is precise. The Rio Negro flows slower, warmer, and carries fewer sediments. The Solimões descending from the Andes is cooler, faster, and loaded with suspended particles. Differences in temperature, density, and velocity prevent immediate blending. Instead, the waters move in parallel, each maintaining its own chemical and physical identity. Only gradually, over distance, do turbulence and diffusion begin to merge them into a single flow. This convergence marks the joining of two distinct ecological systems. The boundary creates gradients, zones where conditions shift rapidly, influencing fish distribution, feeding behavior, and migration patterns. Upstream, along the Rio Negro, the river begins to break apart. Channels divide, rejoin, and split again, forming a vast maze of waterways and forested islands. From above, it appears fragmented, like the river has been scattered across the landscape. Stretching for more than 80 miles, Anavilhanas archipelago is one of the largest freshwater archipelagos in the world. Unlike the sediment-heavy whitewater rivers of the Amazon, the Rio Negro carries little suspended material. Its dark, acidic waters erode and redistribute the landscape more gradually, creating stable, long-lived island formations. During the high water period, much of the archipelago is submerged. Trees stand partially underwater. Navigation routes expand as boats move freely between trunks and over what would otherwise be dry ground. In the dry season, the water recedes, exposing beaches and isolating islands once again. In these quiet channels and flooded forests live one of the region's most distinctive inhabitants, the Amazon River dolphin. Unlike their ocean relatives, these dolphins are built for a completely different environment. Their bodies are more flexible, allowing them to turn heads from side to side. An essential adaptation for navigating through tight, flooded channels. Long, narrow snouts are lined with teeth suited not just for fish, but also crustaceans and small river animals. Their coloration changes with age. Younger individuals are typically grey, while adults develop the distinctive pink hue. Vision here is limited. The water is often opaque, filled with sediment or tannins. Instead, the dolphin relies on echolocation, emitting clicks and interpreting returning echoes to build a precise acoustic map. Culturally, the Amazon River dolphin holds a unique place in local folklore, often associated with transformation and myth. On the banks of the Tapajos River, near the city of Santarém, the Amazon reveals a different side of itself. Here the water runs clear and blue, and along its edge forms a stretch of pale sand known as Ilha do Amor. Despite the name, it is not a permanent island, but a seasonal sandbar, formed by the rise and fall of the river. During the dry season, it emerges as a wide beach, creating the impression of a tropical shoreline. When rains come, it disappears almost entirely, submerged beneath the returning waters of the Tapajos. The sand is fine and light in colour, contrasting sharply with the surrounding forest and the clear river. Ilha do Amor has become one of the most recognised natural landmarks in the region, drawing both locals and travellers. Its accessibility and appearance set it apart from the more remote and inaccessible parts of the rainforest. In the Amazon, everything grows large. Trees rise over 200 feet, and even the plants seem to defy scale. Among them is Victoria amazonica, the largest water lily in the world. Its leaves can reach up to 10 feet in diameter, forming floating platforms strong enough to support significant weight. From above, they appear perfectly round, with raised edges that help keep water from spilling onto the surface. The plant is rooted in the muddy bottom, but its leaves and flowers exist at the interface between water and air. The flower blooms over just 2 nights. On the first night, it opens white and emits a strong, sweet scent, attracting beetles that crawl inside. As the flower closes, it temporarily traps them. By the second night, it reopens, now pink, and releases the beetles, dusted with pollen, to carry it to the next bloom. This process ensures pollination in a habitat where encounters can be unpredictable. Along the muddy banks of the rainforest, the South American tapir is rarely seen but widely distributed. Thick-bodied with short legs and a flexible trunk-like snout, it might look clumsy and weird, but every part of its anatomy is adapted to life in dense forest and near water. Adults can weigh over 500 pounds, yet move with surprising agility through undergrowth. Primarily nocturnal, the tapir feeds on leaves, fruit, and aquatic vegetation. Its prehensile snout allows it to grasp and pull vegetation with precision, while strong jaws process a wide range of plant material. Water is central to its behaviour. Tapirs are strong swimmers and frequently enter rivers and flooded areas to cool down. In these environments, their bulk becomes an advantage, allowing them to swim steadily even where other animals struggle. Their main natural predator is the jaguar, one of the few animals capable of overpowering an adult. High above the forest floor, the ground disappears beneath layers of branches. Here live the spider monkey. Built for life in the trees, they rarely descend to the ground. Long limbs and hook-like hands allow them to swing between branches with precision, but their most distinctive feature is the tail. Fully prehensile and strong enough to support their entire body weight, it functions as a fifth limb. This mode of locomotion, known as brachiation, allows them to cross gaps that would be inaccessible to less specialized primates. Monkeys are highly social, living in loosely structured groups that can split and rejoin throughout the day. Communication is constant. Vocalizations, body language, and movement all play a role in maintaining group cohesion. Life in the canopy offers access to food and relative safety, but it also requires precision. Falls can be fatal, and competition for resources is ongoing. In contrast to the solitary hunters below, they represent a different strategy. Constant movement through the upper layers of the forest. But even life in the canopy comes with its own risks. For the spider monkey, speed and agility are essential, but not always enough. Because above them, another hunter is watching. Perched high in the emergent trees of the Amazon rainforest, the harpy eagle scans the canopy below. With talons comparable in size to a grizzly bear's claws, This bird is built to hunt large animals. The impact is often decisive. Its talons exert immense pressure, capable of killing prey instantly. Harpy eagles are solitary and territorial, requiring vast areas of undisturbed forest to survive. A single breeding pair may control a range of dozens of square miles. As an apex predator of the canopy, the harpy plays a critical role in regulating populations of tree-dwelling mammals. Its presence is an indicator of a healthy, intact ecosystem, one with sufficient space, prey, and minimal human disturbance. Not all movement in the canopy is silent. Cutting across the green expanse of the Amazon rainforest, a flash of red, yellow, and blue breaks the uniformity of leaves. Loud, unmistakable calls echo overhead as a pair crosses the river. Measuring up to 3 feet in length with a wingspan approaching 4 feet, the scarlet macaw is one of the largest parrots in the Amazon. Its coloration is far from subtle, yet in flight, these colours break up against the canopy, making them harder to track than expected. Their diet includes fruits and seeds. Strong beaks are capable of cracking hard shells that many others cannot access. One of their more specialised behaviours takes place along exposed riverbanks, where they gather at mineral-rich clay deposits. Here, macaws consume clay that helps neutralise toxins found in unripe seeds and certain fruits. It's a chemical balance, an adaptation that allows them to expand their diet without harm. Reproduction is tied to stability. Scarlet macaws form long-term pair bonds and nest in tree cavities. Suitable nesting sites are scarce, making old-growth forest essential for their survival. In the interior of Guyana, where the rainforest stretches unbroken to the horizon, the land rises into ancient sandstone plateaus. Rivers cut through this elevated terrain, gathering force before reaching the edge. Kaieteur Falls is considered the most powerful single-drop waterfall in the world. The Piranha River plunges 740 feet in a single, uninterrupted fall, more than 4 times the height of Niagara. There are no tiers or cascades, just a vertical drop into a deep gorge below. The flow varies with the seasons, but even at lower levels, the volume of water is immense. During peak periods, thousands of cubic feet of water surge over the edge every second, generating a constant plume of spray. Kaieteur is part of the Guiana Shield, one of the oldest geological formations on Earth. The rock beneath the river is over 1 billion years old, formed long before the Amazon basin itself. Below the falls, where the water runs dark and visibility drops to near zero, a silent predator waits just beneath the surface. The black caiman, one of the largest reptiles in the Amazon and Guyana region. Adult males can exceed 16 feet in length, with heavily armoured bodies and powerful jaws built for seizing large prey. In these waters, they occupy a role similar to crocodiles elsewhere. Apex predators with few natural rivals. Their coloration is dark, almost black, providing effective camouflage in tannin-stained rivers. They reveal little of their presence. Only the eyes and nostrils break the surface, scanning and sensing. Unlike many reptiles, black caimans show a degree of parental care. Females guard nests built along riverbanks and remain close to hatchlings after they emerge. Historically, their populations declined due to hunting for leather, but in many regions, including Guyana, they have recovered under protection measures. Along the vegetation-choked waterways of the Amazon basin, where branches hang low over the water, lives one of the most unusual birds in the rainforest. With blue facial skin, red eyes, and a spiky crest rising from its head, the hoatzin appears almost prehistoric. But its true distinction lies in how it feeds. Unlike most birds, the hoatzin is a folivore, consuming primarily leaves. To process this diet, it relies on a specialized digestive system more similar to that of a cow than a typical bird. Inside its enlarged crop, plant material is broken down through bacterial fermentation. This process allows the hoatzin to extract nutrients from tough, fibrous leaves, but also produces a strong odour, earning it the nickname stink bird. Flight is not its strength. The hoatzin is a weak flyer, moving only short distances with heavy, clumsy wing beats. Instead, it spends most of its time climbing through branches along river edges, using its feet and wings to navigate dense vegetation. In the same river edge forests, another primate moves with a very different strategy. Smaller than spider monkeys but far more versatile, capuchins are among the most intelligent animals in the Amazon. Their strength lies not in size or speed, but in problem solving. They are opportunists, able to exploit a wide range of food sources. What sets them apart is tool use. Capuchins have been observed using stones to crack open nuts and sticks to probe for insects. This level of flexibility allows them to adapt to changing conditions in ways many other species cannot. They move through the forest in coordinated groups, often numbering between 10 and 30 individuals. The dexterous hands allow for precise manipulation, whether handling food or navigating branches. Capuchins also use their strong memory to track when trees bear fruit and return to the same feeding spots. Encased in a natural armour of bony plates, the armadillo is one of the most distinctive mammals in the Amazon rainforest. This protective shell allows it to remain both shielded and mobile as it moves through dense undergrowth. There are several species in the Amazon, ranging from smaller, agile forms to larger ones like the giant armadillo. Despite these differences, their behaviour is broadly similar. Nocturnal, solitary, and highly specialised for digging. Using strong claws, armadillos excavate burrows that serve as shelter from predators and extreme heat. These burrows also play a secondary role in the ecosystem, providing refuge for other animals once abandoned. When threatened, some species can curl into a ball, protecting their vulnerable underside. Others rely on rapid digging, disappearing into the ground within seconds. Few mammals in the Amazon rainforest are as specialised as the anteater. Everything about its design is focused on a single task: feeding on ants and termites. The body is elongated, the snout reduced to a narrow tube, and the mouth contains no teeth at all. Instead, a long, flexible tongue extends rapidly into nests. Coated in sticky saliva that traps insects with each motion. To access them, the anteater relies on powerful forelimbs equipped with large, curved claws. These are capable of tearing open termite mounds and ant colonies that would resist most other animals. Rather than destroying a nest completely, the anteater feeds briefly, avoiding defensive swarms and allowing the colony to recover. Among the species found in the Amazon, the giant anteater stands out as the largest, reaching lengths of over 6 feet. Despite its size, it is generally solitary and avoids confrontation. When threatened, however, it can defend itself, capable of inflicting serious injury. In southeastern Peru, at the edge of some of the most biologically rich forests in the Amazon, lies the city of Puerto Maldonado. It sits at the meeting point of the Tambopata River and the Madre de Dios River. From here, boats push out into the surrounding forest, heading toward protected areas like the Tambopata National Reserve. Within the city, the rhythm is different. At its center lies the Plaza de Armas, a focal point of daily activity. Spanning the wide waters of the Madre de Dios is the Puente Continental, a long suspension bridge and part of the Interoceanic Highway. It connects this once isolated region to the Pacific coast, transforming how people and goods move through the area. The city itself has grown alongside both conservation and extraction. The surrounding region has seen periods of mining, logging, and agricultural expansion, placing pressure on nearby ecosystems. At the same time, ecotourism supports conservation initiatives that depend on maintaining the forest intact. In the cloud forests of northern Peru, where the Amazon basin begins to rise toward the Andes, water is falling from mist-covered cliffs. Hidden for centuries, Gocta waterfall was only widely documented in 2005, despite standing at a height of over 2,500 feet. It descends in two main tiers, dropping from a forested plateau into a deep canyon below, where spray often obscures its full scale. The waterfall lies near the village of Cocachimba, within a region where the Amazon rainforest transitions into montane cloud forest. Temperatures are cooler and moisture lingers in the air, feeding mosses and ferns that cover the surrounding cliffs. The isolation of the area has helped preserve both the waterfall and its surrounding ecosystem. Access requires a hike through forested terrain, where wildlife remain part of the landscape. Local legend once kept the falls largely untouched, with stories of protective spirits said to inhabit the cliffs. While more accessible today, Gocta still retains a sense of remoteness, its scale revealed gradually as the forest opens. Back in the lowland, the emperor tamarin is instantly recognizable by its white curved mustache. Small and lightweight, rarely exceeding a pound, it moves through the lower canopy, navigating branches too thin to support larger animals. Its claws allow it to grip bark and surfaces with accuracy, giving it access to parts of the forest that others cannot reach. The long, white, curved mustache that defines its appearance closely resembles that of Wilhelm II, the last German emperor. Early European naturalists drew the comparison and the name remained. The feature itself serves no known survival purpose, yet it has become the species' most recognizable trait. Tamarin groups are small but tightly organized, centered around a dominant breeding pair, with other members assisting in raising the young. This cooperative structure increases survival in a forest where predation is constant. With a population of nearly 500,000 people, Iquitos is the largest city in the world that cannot be reached by road. There are no highways connecting it to the rest of the country. Access is only possible by air or by river. The city sits near the upper reaches of the Amazon River system, surrounded by tributaries and seasonally flooded forest. In the low-lying neighbourhoods along the riverbanks, entire communities are built to adapt to rising water levels. During the wet season, when rivers overflow, streets disappear beneath several feet of water. In response, many homes are constructed on stilts. These floating houses, often built from wood and anchored in place, form neighbourhoods that expand and contract with the seasons. Walkways are replaced by canoes. Daily life continues, turning parts of the city into a temporary extension of the river. Like Manaus, Iquitos experienced rapid growth during the rubber boom of the late 19th century. Remnants of that era remain in its historic buildings, where imported materials and European design contrast with the surrounding rainforest. Beyond the riverfronts of Iquitos, the waterways narrow, settlements thin out, and the forest begins to close in again. Deep in the Amazon, hundreds of indigenous groups, each with its own language and territory, maintain traditional ways of life. For them, the forest is not a resource, but a system to be managed following patterns that allow the environment to regenerate. In remote regions, particularly near the borders of Peru and Brazil, there are tribes who live in voluntary isolation. These areas are believed to contain some of the highest concentrations of uncontacted peoples on Earth. Their knowledge of the forest is highly specialized and survival strategies adapted to a complex and changing environment. Contact, when it occurs, can be devastating. Without immunity to outside diseases, even minimal interaction can have severe consequences. As a result, many governments and organizations now enforce protected zones, restricting access to these areas. For many indigenous communities of the Amazon rainforest, hunting remains a primary source of food. Their tools are simple but effective. Blowguns and darts, tipped with a powerful toxin derived from the poison dart frog. Often no more than an inch long, these frogs are among the most toxic creatures on Earth. Their vivid colours serve as a warning signalling danger. This strategy, known as aposematism, allows them to move during the day with relatively little risk from predators. The toxin is accumulated through diet. By feeding on ants and termites, the frogs concentrate chemical compounds in their skin. In captivity, without access to these specific preys, they lose their toxicity entirely. In their natural habitat, poison dart frogs live among leaf litter and low vegetation, where humidity remains constant. They are active during the day, moving across the forest floor in search of food, their bright coloration standing out against the darker background. Despite their size, these frogs play a measurable role in the ecosystem by controlling insect populations. Along the shaded streams, survival is not built on strength or toxicity, but on near invisibility. Perched on the underside of a leaf, motionless, no larger than an inch, the glass frog blend perfectly with their surroundings. Their backs are a soft, translucent green, matching the colour of the vegetation. But it is their underside that sets them apart. The skin is nearly transparent, so clear that internal organs are visible. The outline of the liver, the looping of intestines. This transparency isn't a curiosity, but a defense. In a forest filled with predators, visibility can be fatal. By reducing their silhouette and blending into the filtered light of the canopy, glass frogs become difficult to detect. From above, they merge with the leaf. From below, they dissolve into the brightness of the sky reflected through the foliage. In contrast to the vivid warning colours of poison dart frogs, this species represents a different evolutionary path, not advertising danger, but avoiding it. Perched on a low branch, the Amazon kingfisher remains motionless, scanning the water below. Vision here is critical. Unlike many aquatic predators that rely on concealment within the water, the kingfisher hunts from above. When prey is identified, the bird dives head first, cutting through the water with precision. The catch is returned to the perch, where it is struck against the branch before being swallowed whole. Its plumage is adapted to this environment. Green upperparts blend with the surrounding vegetation, while the white underparts reduce visibility from below. Males are marked with a chestnut band across the chest. Unlike larger birds that travel far, the Amazon kingfisher usually stays within a fixed stretch of river. It does this because its prey, small fish, are reliably found in shallow or slow-moving water. On the forest floor, movement is constant, but not always obvious. Beneath the leaves, entire systems operate at a scale that is easy to overlook. The leafcutter ant move in organised columns, carrying fragments of leaves many times their own body weight. But the leaves aren't food. Instead, they are used to cultivate fungus inside vast underground chambers. This fungus is their true source of nutrition, carefully maintained in a controlled environment. A single colony can contain millions of individuals divided into specialised roles: workers, soldiers, caretakers. Trails can extend for hundreds of feet, linking the nest to surrounding vegetation. In contrast to this collective system stands another species, defined not by cooperation on a massive scale, but by defense. Larger and solitary in behavior, the bullet ant is known for its sting. Considered one of the most painful in the insect world. The pain has been described as immediate, intense, and long-lasting. A defensive mechanism designed to deter even large predators. Its name reflects this effect, the sensation often compared to being struck by a bullet. When disturbed, they respond quickly, delivering a sting that injects venom affecting the nervous system. Where thousands move in formation, clearing paths through the forest floor, other predators learn to watch. Among them is one of the largest spiders on Earth, the Goliath bird eater. Hidden inside burrows, it remains almost entirely out of sight. With a leg span reaching up to 11 inches and a body built for ambush, the spider does not rely on webs. Instead, it waits. Sensitive hairs along the spider's legs detect these subtle changes, translating them into direction and distance. When prey comes within range, the attack is immediate. The spider lunges, overpowering its target with sheer size and strength. Defense is equally specialized. When threatened, it can release barbed hairs from its abdomen, flicking them into the air. Unlike the constant organized activity of ant colonies, the Goliath bird eater is solitary. It occupies a fixed territory, emerging mostly at night to hunt. Its burrow provides both shelter and a controlled environment, protecting it from heat, predators, and flooding. On the northern edge of Brazil, where the Amazon River widens toward the Atlantic, lies the city of Macapá. Set almost directly on the equator, it occupies a strategic position at the mouth of the river, where inland waterways meet the ocean. It was this location that led to the construction of one of the most significant colonial structures in the region, the Fortaleza de São José de Macapá. Built in the 18th century by the Portuguese, the fortress was designed to secure control over the Amazon's northern entrance. Its layout follows a classic star-shaped design, with angled bastions that allow defenders to cover all approaches. Constructed from stone and lime, the walls are thick, engineered to withstand artillery. The fortress faces the Amazon directly. Any vessel approaching from the Atlantic would have passed within range. Unlike most Brazilian state capitals, Macapá has no direct road connection to the national highway system. Transport depends on air routes and river navigation, using the Amazon as a logistical corridor. Reaching the mouth, the Amazon River fragments. Channels split, tides push inland, and land emerges in shifting forms. Covering roughly 15,500 square miles, Marajó is the largest river island in the world, comparable in size to Switzerland. Large portions are seasonally flooded, particularly during the rainy months, when rising river levels inundate vast lowlands. Human life here has adapted accordingly. In many regions, boats replace roads during floods, and settlements are built on slightly elevated ground or stilts. One of the island's most distinctive features is the presence of large herds of water buffalo, introduced centuries ago. The animals are used for transport, agriculture, and even policing in flooded areas where conventional vehicles cannot operate. The island still remains sparsely populated relative to its size, with communities distributed along rivers and higher ground. Infrastructure is limited, and access often depends on ferries or small aircraft from nearby cities like Belém. Deep inland, where the Amazon and the Andes begin to overlap, flows one of the most visually unusual rivers on Earth. For most of the year, Cano Cristales appears like a typical clear water stream. But during a narrow seasonal window, everything changes. Beneath the surface grows an aquatic plant known as Macarenia clavigera. And from June to November, this plant turns vivid shades of red, covering the riverbed in dense formations. Combined with yellow sand, green algae, and blue reflections of the sky, the river takes on a whole spectrum of colours. The conditions required for this transformation are precise. Too much rain and the water becomes too deep, blocking sunlight. Too little and the plants dry out. Lack of nutrients limits fish populations, making the river a relatively sparse aquatic environment in terms of fauna. Instead, its uniqueness comes from the interaction between geology, water clarity, and plant life. Further east, along the upper reaches of the Orinoco River in Colombia, the landscape changes again. The dense continuity of rainforest gives way to exposed stone, massive rounded formations rising from the surrounding plains. These are the Cerros de Mavicura, composed of ancient granite belonging to the Guiana Shield. These hills are among the oldest visible rock formations on Earth. 3 main domes dominate the area, rising hundreds of feet above the forest as rounded monoliths. Vegetation struggles to take hold on their surfaces. Only thin patches of grasses cling to cracks where soil has accumulated. At their base, the Orinoco flows wide and slow, dotted with small islands and bordered by gallery forest. At the frontier between the Amazon and the savannas of eastern Colombia lies San José del Guaviare. The city sits along the Guaviare River, one of the major tributaries that forms the northern boundary of the Amazon basin. Here, the river is wide, slow-moving, and essential to daily life, used for access to surrounding areas that remain difficult to reach. Beyond the urban edge, ancient rock formations emerge from the forest. Among them is Cerro Azul. On its vertical rock faces are thousands of pictographs, painted in red pigment depicting hunting scenes and geometric patterns. Some of these images are believed to be thousands of years old, offering a visual record of early human presence in the region. Not far from here are the exposed cliffs known as Ciudad de Piedra, Stone City. These are not constructed structures, but natural sandstone formations shaped by erosion into walls, towers, and streets. The resemblance to urban forms is coincidental, but striking. Walking among them, the forest gives way to open stone, creating a landscape that feels both natural and architectural. High in the canopy of the Amazon rainforest live the sloth, one of the slowest creatures on Earth. Every movement is deliberate, energy conserved at all times. This isn't a limitation, but an adaptation. Its diet, primarily leaves, is low in nutrients and difficult to digest, requiring a metabolism that operates at a fraction of the rate seen in other mammals. Long limbs and curved claws allow the sloth to hang effortlessly from branches, spending its entire life suspended upside down. Muscles are arranged to maintain grip with minimal effort, reducing energy expenditure over long periods. Their fur hosts algae, giving it a greenish tint that blends with the canopy. This symbiotic relationship provides concealment from predators such as the harpy eagle, one of the few animals capable of hunting them. Movement between trees is limited. Sloths rarely descend to the ground, where they are vulnerable. When they do, it is usually for a specific purpose, such as defecation, a behavior that exposes them briefly to danger. In southern Venezuela, unique table mountains dominate the landscape. These formations are known as tepuis. The name comes from the language of the Pemon people and is translated as House of the Gods. Locals believe that they are the home of the Mawari spirits. While similar formations exist in neighbouring Brazil and Guyana, Venezuela contains the largest group of tepuis. Broad, flat summits capped by sheer cliffs rise 3,000 feet above the surrounding lowlands. They are the surviving fragments of a massive sandstone plateau that once covered much of the Guyana Shield. The rocks forming the tepuis were deposited more than 1.5 billion years ago, at a time when life on Earth was still in its earliest stages. Erosion gradually wore down weaker material, leaving behind blocks of exceptionally hard, quartz-rich sandstone. Ecologically, tepuis function as islands in the sky. Their steep, often impassable cliffs isolate the summit environments. Over millions of years, this separation has produced ecosystems with extraordinarily high levels of endemism. Many plants and animals found on Tepui summits exist nowhere else on Earth. Among all the tepuis rising above southern Venezuela, one stands apart as their most iconic representative. Mount Roraima reaches an elevation of 9,200 feet above sea level. With cliffs rising up to 3,000 feet from the surrounding savanna. An immense, flat plateau covering roughly 12 square miles. Its vertical walls appear almost perfectly cut. Persistent clouds often cling to the upper edges, reinforcing its reputation as an isolated and otherworldly place. To early European explorers, the mountain appeared so inaccessible that it inspired legends of hidden life. These ideas later influenced literature, most famously inspiring Arthur Conan Doyle's The Lost World. The summit of Mount Roraima is unlike any other mountaintop. Rather than snow or forests, it is a surreal landscape of dark rock. Rain collects in shallow basins, flows across the plateau, and then spills directly over the cliffs, giving rise to countless waterfalls. Many of them are thin, silvery streams that appear suddenly from the rock face, dropping hundreds or even thousands of feet. But from the rim of Tepui, water does not merely spill. Angel Falls plunges 3,200 feet with a free fall of about 2,600 feet before the water even touches a slope. Its source is the same mechanism seen on Mount Roraima. Rainfall collected on a flat Tepui summit with nowhere to go but over the edge. The falls originate from the Churun River, which flows calmly across the top of Tepui before reaching the cliff. During the rainy season, Angel Falls becomes a continuous, thunderous column of water visible from miles away. In drier periods, the flow can weaken, sometimes breaking into separate ribbons or dissolving into mist before reaching the ground. As the water falls, much of it is dispersed by wind, turning into fine spray long before it reaches the base. What finally arrives below feeds the rivers of the rainforest, continuing the long journey of water that began on a stone plateau far above. The name comes from aviator Jimmy Angel, who brought international attention to the site in the 20th century. His aircraft famously became stuck on the summit of Auyan Tepuy in 1937. News of the adventure spread and the waterfall was named Angel Falls in his honour. After plunging down the cliff, the water continues its way along the Churun River. The Churun courses through a remote region where waterways become the only viable routes of travel. It is part of the larger Kaieteur River basin, one of the most important river systems in the country. Fed by frequent rainfall, the river carries dark, tea-coloured water stained by organic matter from the forest floor. For travellers and explorers, the Churun has long served as the approach route to Angel Falls. Motorised canoes navigate its length. Moving upstream through narrow channels bordered by thick vegetation. The river gradually becomes more enclosed as Auyan Tepuy rises ahead. Its massive walls increasingly dominating the horizon. With every bend, the landscape grows more vertical. Signalling proximity to the Tepuy that gives birth to the world's tallest waterfall. After winding its way through the rainforest, the Churun flows downstream and joins the Kaieteur River. At this confluence, the narrow, enclosed river corridors open into a broad basin, revealing the next chapter of the Tepuy world. Canaima Lagoon is created as the Kaieteur River expands across a shallow depression in the ancient sandstone terrain. The lagoon stretches for nearly 2 miles. Its dark waters are coloured reddish-brown by decaying vegetation. Several major cascades that descend from low sandstone cliffs turn the lagoon into a natural amphitheatre of falling water. Though modest in height compared to the Tepuy giants farther inland, these waterfalls are wide and powerful. Nearby, along the Kaieteur River, just beyond the lagoon, lies Sapo Falls, among the most distinctive in the region. Here, erosion has carved narrow ledges behind the falling water, allowing people to walk behind the waterfall itself. This close proximity reveals the force of the river and the smooth, sculpted sandstone shaped by centuries of erosion. Beyond the rivers and waterfalls of Canaima lies the broader setting that binds them all together, the Grand Sabana. This is the geographical foundation of southern Venezuela, a vast plateau that forms part of the greater Guiana Highlands. Sitting at high elevations, it differs sharply from the dense Amazonian rainforest to the south and west. Wide grasslands dominate the landscape, broken by gallery forests, rivers, and the sudden rise of tepuis. Water is the organizing force of the Grand Sabana. And at the center of this system flows the Caroni River. Rising in the highlands near the Brazilian border, the Caroni gathers countless tributaries from the plateau. It then travels northward for more than 590 miles, cutting through forest and savanna, before ultimately joining the Orinoco River. Its waters are typically dark, coloured by organic material leached from vegetation and sandstone soils. Within the river corridors of the Grand Sabana, one animal is more closely tied to water than any other, the capybara. As the largest rodent in the world, the capybara is a familiar presence along the wetlands of southern Venezuela. Adults can reach 4 feet in length and weigh up to 150 pounds, with sturdy, barrel-shaped bodies and short legs. Slightly webbed feet make them powerful swimmers, remaining mostly submerged while staying alert. In the Grand Sabana, this semi-aquatic lifestyle is essential, as rivers and flooded grasslands provide both food and protection. During the heat of the day, they retreat to the shade or slip into the water to regulate body temperature. They live in groups that typically range from 10 to 30 individuals, though larger aggregations can form during the dry season. These groups are structured around a dominant male, and their constant vocalization serve to maintain contact in tall grass. Far downstream from the highlands of the Grand Sabana, the journey of southern Venezuela's rivers reaches its final transformation at the Orinoco Delta. Here, one of South America's great rivers slows, spreads, and breaks apart, surrendering its waters to the Atlantic Ocean. The delta that covers more than 15,000 square miles is remarkably flat, rising only a few feet above sea level. This minimal elevation allows water to flow freely across the landscape, creating a constantly shifting mosaic of river arms. Sediment carried from the interior, much of it originating in the ancient rocks of the Guiana Shield, settles here, gradually building new land. Seasonal floods reshape the delta year after year, eroding some banks while extending others. Freshwater mixes with tidal influences from the Atlantic, supporting mangrove forests, palm swamps, and vast wetlands. The Warao people, whose name means people of the canoe, have adapted their culture to a world where water replaces roads. Villages are often built on stilts along riverbanks, and daily life revolves around fishing. Since the 1970s, roughly 17 to 20% of the Amazon has been lost to deforestation. Each year, thousands of square miles are cleared, primarily for soybean production, logging, and mining. When forest is removed, stored carbon is released into the atmosphere, contributing directly to global warming. Scientists warn of a tipping point beyond which large portions of the Amazon could transition into a degraded savanna. This would mean a permanent loss of biodiversity and far-reaching impacts on global climate stability. The human cost is equally significant. The Amazon is home to more than 30 million people, including over 350 indigenous groups. As deforestation expands, communities face displacement, eroding cultural knowledge built over generations. What is at stake is not just forest cover, but function. The rainforest operates as a system. Once disrupted beyond a certain threshold, it cannot simply regenerate. The Amazon is vast but not limitless.